We're going to call to order the select board meeting for November 24th. The meeting's being recorded. We have a new Zoom policy where we're recording all names. We do it for everybody in the room, but for the people on Zoom, we're asking that everybody identify themselves by name, first and last. So we have a clear list for the minutes as to who attended. I think we only have one as of right now. Well, second one Kathleen needs the last name. Let's circle back. The first item on the agenda is tax classification hearing continuance. Roger Brown from the Board of Assessors and Jeff By spoke to us last week briefly about it. Roger, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So let's just start off. So with the the valuations have been certified. So that's the reason why we needed to have a continuation, because they were not certified on the date that we had the first meeting. The actual values themselves from the presentation. So I provided the updated presentation, which just shows that there are certified values. Basically, well, not basically, it is exactly the same numbers that I provided to you in the previous tax classification session. So nothing has changed. We were just waiting for them to go through the process of being satisfied with documents which are they were really related to sales activity, and whether they needed a sample of 2 years versus 1 year. So that was the only thing that was going on. Unfortunately, it took time to get that straightened out between our valuations provider, Catalyst, and the state. So that was achieved. And so the materials are unchanged, with the exception that they say that it's that we are now certified versus the time before when we were not certified. I'll just pause there. I believe I see John. So I was just wondering if we wanted to go through anything different, and I can't see everyone in the select board, but is John Field there as a member?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Do you want me to loop through for your benefit, John, basically what the presentation went through?
Yes.
Okay. So the values you will see have increased, and mostly driven by the residential values, about 10% in Sandisfield over the previous year. Now, again, that doesn't mean taxes go up 10%. It just means that the value of the property in Sandisfield has actually risen by that amount. That's primarily driven by the residential numbers. And something that was on the presentation last on November 6th, if I got that correct, versus the 10th versus today, is that I didn't mention out loud that the average price of house in Sandisfield, and that's literally taking the values of all 599 houses that we have in Sandisfield, single family homes, and dividing it by that number, is now $442,000. Kind of a number that could stop everyone a bit in terms of thinking that that's the average. But that's what it is right now. Now that's driven by a couple of things, but mostly the most important aspect is really the sales activity we've seen, which is really stronger than we've seen in as long as I can recall. So not only do you have a lot of sales, we also have new buildings going on in Sandisfield. So that's kind of the basic piece of it. If there are any questions, the only thing that may pop out at you, John, is looking at the numbers. There's an increase in the industrial category on a very, very low base, and a decrease, an offsetting decrease in commercial. And that's literally just the change of former Tucker's from a bar restaurant, which is considered to be commercial, to the playground manufacturing distributing use right now, which is classified as industrial. That's all it is.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of pause there unless you have any other questions, because I know that everyone's gone through this already. And I don't know if I said anything more, gentlemen, that you think is important that John should know.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week you had stated this was the first time since you've been here that new construction homes had shown up on the list. I think that's the way you placed it. Was that the case? There was 5 new homes?
Yeah, 5 brand new spanking houses.
And what was the time frame on that? Do you remember since how far back you said you took a look back on it?
Well, it was actually the period is calendar year 24.
Good.
So I don't want to go into this because then you get down the rabbit hole of the time frames that we need for assessors. But basically, if you look at sales, you should be looking at sales the previous calendar year, even though everything's run on a physical year basis. That's what they want us to do.
Okay.
So the sales in 24, the activity in 24 included 5 new buildings.
Thank you, Roger. Carl?
Roger, one thing you mentioned last time that I think John would have an interest in hearing about is that the land values, though they've been static over the last couple of years, they went up. Correct?
I'm sorry, the land values, yeah, land values have increased as well. You're finding a lot of land only sales. I think that's what you were mentioning, Carl. I'm sorry, it's just a little bit difficult to hear. But the land only sales have gone up considerably. There are
Quick reaction to the headlines today.
Yeah.
Brotherhood thing. One more time, President Trump.
You're good.
That wasn't me, I promise you.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah, so land only sales. So there is, I hate to use the word pressure, but you are seeing a lot of development going on, especially on roads, paved roads in town, where, you know, plots that have been there and never developed are being developed. So I'll stop on that. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, I just want to go to the questions that we just want to make sure. I am certainly not suggesting that we make any changes in tax policy, but if we want to run through any of those things that the board can make changes to, and I did mention before, and I don't need to beat it to death in terms of split tax rate, small commercial, those were decided at the last board tax classification meeting. And that's, I don't suggest that we do anything different, but if you wanted to make any changes to those, the open space and the resident versus non-resident is something else that can be. I'm not suggesting you take a look at that, but I just want to make sure that we ask those questions before we ask the board to approve the tax classification.
Yeah, personally, I don't feel we need to make any changes. I don't know how Bob and John feel about it. Yeah, I think keeping on the direction we started on last year, I'd like to follow through with. I think the board would like to follow through on.
That absolutely makes sense. Are there any other questions in terms of the values then?
No.
I'll just, I gave a lot of good news, which hopefully John is aware of, in terms of the Board of Assessors agreed to release 100,000 from the overlay account. So that's there. I will also tell you, and I know this sounds nothing versus that, but still, we changed our services from one of our vendors. And that has resulted in a $500 savings, which is going to go into the general account Because when we receive a, refund check to an extent, that's where that goes. It will not actually reduce our expenses, but the town will still benefit by $500. So I hope you don't mind if I blow the horn on that one too.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay. With that, I want to make sure the board does approve the tax classification. The town clerk will record that, and then the Board of Assessors will sign off, and then we can get our tax rate over to the collector.
I would motion to approve the 2026 tax classification without change from last year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Roger.
Yes.
Bye.
Great. All right, review special town meeting results and discuss action items. So, don't know if any of you guys were there, but it went pretty good. It was a true people's meeting. I think the residents debated, came to a conclusion and voted. And I think most items were non-contentious and some were. So my take on it is it seemed to went well and there was overwhelming support. Great.
Awesome.
The biggest meeting I've ever seen, and I've been here a long time, 171 people, amazing.
I was disappointed to see people voting against the turnout vote.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Okay,
It made no sense.
I voted against it.
Yep.
The turnout here,
I voted, no,
we're talking about turnout.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Safety.
I didn't vote for it because there was just so much bullying that I said it'll pass, but I voted against the building. And I'd like to explain why, because.
Yeah.
It's hard to, it's hard for you guys to know because I grew up there. So, I don't find that building is accessible. As in, it's only got 2 acres of land. The land behind it is being sold for $3.5 million. It's not that somebody's gonna spend that money and then go, here, town, have 25 acres and build your complex up there. So I don't see any growth from that building. The building itself needs a lot of work. As far as I've been there when it's run out of water, I've been there when, there was an oil can or oil tank. So that the furnace would run. Walking, there's no parking, so you have to walk on the roads. So you have little kids because you have functions there. I've seen all of you walk kids on the road. It's not that safe. These are the reasons that and plus I don't want to pay for it a third time. Paid for it the first time, we paid for it for almost 40 years. I really don't want to waste any more money. I really thought you guys were looking at different things, and personally, there's 10 acres down here on 57, on the corner of 57 and Silverbrook. 10 acres for $65,000. You could put a new firehouse, and I know that you have some figures, but I'd like to actually see what figures
I did a complete estimate. I'd be happy to show it to you.
with
4 to 5 bays, meeting NFTA standard because it's a commercial fire structure, it's over $2 million. So because people were upset with the idea of giving Ralph any more money, we would have paid more money in interest on that loan than we would have paid to buy this building. And furthermore, all buildings need work. For some reason, nobody's ever fixed or worked on or maintained any of these buildings in town.
But see, to me, for one, it just seems like that is a huge price when, the town garage went up for what, $200,000?
No,
$240.
Or 240, I'm sorry. So,
That's what the insurance paid. That's all we got for a building.
I'd like, I'm not gonna say. 'cause I
But
don't
you
know.
had all the, you had all the stuff. Right, you had the land, you had the parking lot,
No,
you had the, just the
100%,
building.
100% agree.
But it's
Right.
also not to NFTA standard.
The building that was covered under the insurance for full value. They estimated at $240,000 where they would pay out. They took that insurance money.
Yep.
Put it out to building contractors and said, we need a building that this size roughly
Sure.
for $240,000. And that's what we got, that building that we're in right now.
Yeah, that's,
So I don't know what the firehouse needs. Be different from a truck garage like we have, basically. To be a firehouse, you know, that part. I need to be somebody.
well,
has to
strict,
explain
the
to
strict
me.
fire load laws for grill, if
But-
you'd like to grill, if you like.
But for what purpose though? For what's the purpose for it?
Sure, so I apologize for being behind you guys. There's a few things to keep in mind when it comes to the building. With Station 2 related to the NFPA standard. We're grandfathered in because the building was constructed in 1991.
What are the regulations? I don't understand.
Sure,
that.
so if you construct a building today, so like Lennox just did that, they did a very conservative version of what yours was and it cost them 12 million. For example, you have to have a gear area that is completely separate, because it could start the carcinogens on the gear, the carbon buildup has to be completely separate from the firehouse. There's shower regulations, there's clean water containment regulations. There's like separation areas between the bay, like the apparatus floor, and like the living area or the kitchen area or the day room area. Because we're grandfathered, we don't have to do things like, for example, co-ed showers, bathrooms, and locker room. Those are all things that are required, not even if you didn't have like anybody staying there per se, like a live-in concept. When somebody goes, we'll say again, to a structure fire or a motor vehicle accident where there's some type of hazard involved, the new NFPA standard requires us to have an area where the gear can be secured, and then the personnel have to be able to have access to take a shower and be able to wash themselves off from that incident, be able to change and have a second set of gear available to them in the firehouse to be able to stay in service. So while we're grandfathered, and some of those ideas and those standards are absolutely necessary, but for us to have the opportunity over the course of time to resolve or try to acquire that standard is much more feasibly conservative to do versus it all in one shot. Like I said, Lennox, they just built one a complex again, trying to meet those standards, which are insane. I mean, just the climate vent system, the exhaust evacuation system that would have to be attached to the trucks to go out requires modifications to the vehicle's exhaust. So that has like I've never seen it. It's like those yellow tubes that come down in firehouses. The trucks have to be modified, the exhausts have to be modified, they all have to be on the same direction. So even if, I don't know, we'll say the exhaust dumps to the right, it has to go to the left, so we have to work on the trucks. The climate vent system alone, the smoke ejection system, is a $600,000 investment. We would have been in a situation, in my personal opinion, would being having a new firehouse feel like the way to go, absolutely long term. And believe me, I'm not gonna say no to a brand new building. The problem is that we, as an organization, do not have the time to be able to acquire the land, pull the permits, go through the bid process, and then even be able to pour a foundation is a 2-3 year endeavor if we started today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just.
Because things. For one, like permits, there's absolutely no reason that the selectmen can't say. Conservation, planning, we want you all here and cut through some red tape. It's not like we have to go 1 month from, I know, never mind.
And I totally understand. I think that it's absolutely a feasible project long term if we wanted to invest and upgrade and turn the building into something else, maybe a community center down the road, or those options are always on the table. But the reality is that unless we can do it in 90 days, it's not a feasible option. Our current lease has the option to terminate with 90 days notice, period. And the way the negotiations were going, they were the ask was to interfere with fire department operations, to restrict access to certain aspects of the building. Like, for example, I've been operating out of my car for an office since I've gotten here, and that's not feasible or equitable. I can't keep personal information. I spend way too much time in Janie's office trying to utilize certain things, and it's a completely inappropriate allocation of resources when we do
But
this.
again, it was voted down at the annual town meeting. So that's 6 months ago. So, and that property's been for sale since last year. And like I said, it's 10 acres for $65,000 because the price just went down. And back when the firehouse was down there, you had a community. The fire department was the heart of the community. And you would have carnival games and you would have square dances and everybody went. And you had more volunteers because it was a community. And the firehouse up there, when it split, it ripped the heart out of the town and it sits up there and you can keep it up there, but you're not going to get the community back. Just saying.
Thank you, Lisa. Mary?
When that firehouse was built, it had the codes at that time and it had different usage. Okay, they did not plan, septic was not planned for this, so the septic's inadequate. I'm sure you're gonna come up with a whole list. When does it turn to become, when you renovate a new building? And what's the renovation? When does that renovation turn and click in and say, wait a minute, now you have to meet new standards,
We exceed 50% of the value,
50%?
or at the building inspector's discretion. So it's a little different with municipalities. For me, it was purely financial. Getting involved in a $200,000 a year loan for this Taj Mahal of firehouses that even the chief wasn't asking for, wasn't even on my radar. We got roads to fix, bridges to fix.
So, sorry.
Yeah, you wait to be acknowledged. Go ahead, Rob.
So, look, there's no question that a new firehouse would have cost us a bunch more money. And it would have taken time. Anybody thinks that we would see it and occupy that within a 2-3 year period, I think that's optimistic. So, having said that, when we seize this building through eminent domain, we are going to end up paying fair market value. Now, the number that was approved in the meeting, okay, there's other appraisals that have yet to come in. I suspect they're going to be significantly reduced for reasons that I won't get into here. But the point is, you're going to be paying fair cash value issued by Massachusetts certified general appraisers. If we decide in the future we want to build a fire station, it's not like that investment is lost. It's not like you can't recover aspects of that investment. So I don't see any downside to proceeding on the path we're on. It's certainly worthwhile to have discussions about what we do in the future, long term. But I don't see any other option than the path we're on right now, because if we don't stop this interference from SFDI, we're likely not to have a fire department 6-12 months from now.
Thank you, girl. Ralph?
I have no remember what I was gonna say.
We'll just leave it there. Anybody else?
I mean, from my perspective, negotiating with SFDI, I would get better results slamming my head in that door.
Yeah.
My head would hurt, and
That's proven from the last 8 months. I mean,
I even met with Dan today to get an answer on whether or not SFDI, after the results of the meeting and the overwhelming want to be free of SFDI, if they would be willing to save face and give it to us. The answer is no. And I also asked him why he, when given the opportunity in the meeting, didn't explain what they would do with the money. He said he doesn't want the money. They don't want the money. They want to control the organization because, you know, they have an axe to grind with the chief. I mean, it was a recorded meeting, so I gotta send it to Jamie. He recorded it, I recorded it. And I kept asking and I kept pressing, what are you gonna do with the money? And I got no answers. The meeting lasted 15 minutes. Yes.
I have a simple question. Did he explain what the reason why he didn't want to gift the building before I got here? I know currently it's because they don't like me, but I didn't know if there was a reason before I even applied.
That's a really good point.
That's a good question. I'll ask him tomorrow.
An even better point is in one of the recent Berkshire Eagle articles, Andrew said that their motivation at SFDI was basically that they believed the town was on the wrong path. They made a bad decision.
That was said
Townspeople
today.
said they agreed with your decision. Okay, So they were proven wrong in that vote. Okay, and if they can't reflect back on that and now do the right thing, it's like, you gotta be kidding me. And I want everybody to understand, right now, they object to the decisions we made with the fire department. If that organization continued to hold the leverage, they could use that as leverage to object with any decision this elected town government made on anything. And that's totally unacceptable to me.
That's the goal,
Well, it's a charity acting like a political action committee
absolutely, which is against.
and using our money
And
to
it's
fight against us.
the rules of a charity,
It's, yeah.
to
it's
do
not-
that, they're not supposed to be involved publicly at all.
Barbara's actually done a really good job helping you to understand
Trying.
how one goes about taking something by eminent domain, because well, I've been speaking with a couple of members of my family and some friends. I mean, what's to keep you from taking my land by eminent domain? How does one get, what is it that one has to happen in order to claim something by eminent domain? And does there need to be a price involved, a sale, etc.? I think that there are a lot of people that don't understand that concept. And I noticed that Bill Price is up there, so hopefully he's taking notes for the Sandisfield Times. But, and also John kind of mentioned something about who gets, they get the money. I don't believe that they can take the money for themselves, though, correct? And then who is it also that's driving force behind the next steps?
So my understanding is like eminent domain can be done for the greater good of the community. We didn't take it from an individual, a homeowner. We weighed it heavily. We were in a bad situation where a charity raised money and decided to keep the asset. Leveraged it against us to the point where we had to, keep our nose down and stay out of trouble. But to the point of who you can do it to, I think it's up to town meeting. It has to meet certain criteria. Like I said, the greater good of the community. I don't think taking your house would be the greater good of the community. The government does it with the pipelines and roads. This is a little different, but we felt it was necessary. So
Who's
it's,
the charge, though?
so what's that?
Who leads the charge?
In other words, what's the next step?
So the next step is the board will issue an order of taking, and then within 30 days, we have the title free and clear. We are waiting for another appraisal. We don't have a limit of time to do this. So we can take our time and see if any negotiations work out. We still have the ability to accept it as a gift or by a lower purchase price, at a max of 560. What was authorized was 560. That was the number. We'd all love to see that number lower, but I also don't want to see us get sued.
So the state is going to give you the title?
Well, the registry of deeds will give us the title, because of the way the process works. And it's a clean title this way.
I just don't
I
understand.
thought the question she asked was, the town can't acquire any property, be it eminent domain or otherwise, without a 2/3 town vote at a town meeting. So if ever we got a select board in here that wanted to see some individual's property, it would have to go first to a town meeting and receive a 2/3 vote. That's what happened. Now, this would have never received a 2/3 vote if we were trying to seize land from an individual, my view. If we're seizing it from a public charity that we donated to, okay, that wouldn't play nice going forward. And I think that's why we got the 2/3 vote. But a lot of people expressed to me their concern, like eminent domain, it's slippery slope. This time it's SFDI, next time it could be me in my home. I don't have any concern about that whatsoever, because I know the people in Sandisfield wouldn't vote for that.
You
Mary,
mentioned before that the cost of building was very expensive now per foot. There's gonna have to be some type of priority of what do we want the building to turn into? How are we gonna navigate that?
we're in the infancy of that process, so
Yeah.
I think we have to take a step back, have a work session with the chief and with the police chief also, because we have to understand what our police department looks like. We've got a lot of different things we got to find ways to pay for. Keeping that building functioning was job one right now, because they're doing quite well. It's very important in my
And
opinion.
you gotta realize that come July, we were looking at a lease that was tripling. And that was just the start.
If we-
So in fewer than I don't know. 7, 8, 9 years, we were gonna pay $300,000+ in rent. So,
The bigger thing is that because we weren't given full access to the building and our use of it was very much constrained by the lease. If you want to have ambulance crews on call 24/7 and not have to pay what we just allocated to pay, if we set up bunks in there, it will reduce the cost we're going to have to pay to have that kind of service and coverage. Okay, and that's a key thing. Like in my mind, it wasn't so much the rent tripling and stuff like that. It was the fact that we can't put an office in there for a cheap. We can't use the space that's there for bunks. And it's just like we got a firehouse that we can't really use. So I think the next step is with those restrictions removed, let the guys absorb that and take advantage of that as we think about what we want to do relative to improvements and so on and so forth.
Ralph,
Well, that goes right along with my question. How long before NFP changes the rules for that grandfathered firehouse? Is it gonna be, could it possibly be
so you
after new ownership? Is it like a Title V for your septic? You know what I mean? Will it have to?
so the
be
trip.
brought up
I'm sorry, go on, go.
code
Yeah.
before we can actually use it as their firehouse?
So if-
you know, like the way they want to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but so when you buy a house, you don't have to bring it up to code, right?
Right.
What triggers that is a building permit. So if your building permit says that you're gonna spend more than half the value of that home doing renovations, and you have to bring every safety measure, egress measure up to code. So the same with this building, just buying it doesn't trigger
Right.
improvements. Even pulling a permit doesn't trigger mandatory.
As long as
improvements.
it's under 50 grand or whatever, you know, just a number.
Yeah, I mean,
But with the exhaust thing being 600,000 alone, that's 100+% of the value of that firehouse.
sure,
So if NFP says we have to put that in,
but there's no trigger for that. So municipalities aren't triggered by the standard until they build a new structure or until they
it has
exceed.
to be new.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they won't come in there and say that we have to do that.
There's certain firehouses, you look at Tyringham, that's basically an oversized
No,
two-car
I
garage,
get
you know,
that.
so they would never be able to modify it in a way that would allow that to happen.
Right.
So there's definitely grandfathers and
They're also not gonna bankrupt towns in, you know, in the effort
Not
for
in
it.
that business, but some other people might be. Did it again.
Sorry, it's because I cut you off. I apologize.
So, go on.
There is a very important lesson related to this. You never, ever give somebody the kind of leverage over municipal government that was given by this arrangement and structure. Yes, that mistake was made years ago, but we can never allow something like that to happen again, where an entity controls an essential service or function. Then they go rogue and they use that to try and leverage all the decisions of town government with that leverage. You can never allow that to happen again.
Agreed.
just,
I just wanna say.
I'd like to point out one thing first,
Sorry, go ahead.
because I'm gonna lose my memory.
Yeah.
They're acting like it's Chief Grillo's issue right now, right? But as John pointed out a little, or maybe Ralph or somebody,
He's the villain of the year.
they also did it to Henry for a stick when he was the
Yeah,
chief.
remember that? Oh, yeah.
And I want to point out that 15 of the 17 members voted to put Henry in that position. So that wasn't us forcing him into that position. They voted. We gave him options and 15 of them said, this is our guy.
Yeah.
I do agree that he didn't end up being their guy.
Yeah.
I think he handled things wrong. But anyway, we didn't force this upon them.
They did. And I don't think anybody in this room, Lisa, wanted to do this. Nobody wanted to pay this money to SFDI. But we feel, and I can only speak for me, it's the only option to move safety and that the fire department itself to let them move ahead and do what the vision is that's in their mind right now.
not only that, we were gonna pay them one way or another.
Regardless, they would have been constantly making it worse.
So again, can I speak?
Yep, go ahead.
I didn't get. I'll just a quick comment, I think with the overwhelming results for having you guys move forward with one of the three options, right? Is because I'm pretty sure everyone in this town is sick and tired of listening to the story about what's going on with this chief, with the
Yes.
firehouse, with this, and we have so much that it's just overwhelming.
Needs to be done.
We have to move forward.
Face
Whatever
week's
it
been
is,
pretty
in order to
quiet.
become a town, united and we have to get past this. This is getting dragged out way too far.
Yeah.
It's over. It has to be over.
Yeah, and that's,
Agreed.
That's what I said the other night was.
All right, Doug Minor, would you like to say something?
Oh, my.
Yeah, sorry, this is from a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to address the concept of the government taking private homes. I wanted to add on to what was said. Not only does it require the entire town to vote for it, not only are there a bunch of legal hurdles afterwards that we are all going to go through in this process, but another key part of eminent domain is that the government can only do it not just for the public good, but the structure or the property has to be in the public service. So that's usually why it happens with utilities or pipelines or stuff like that. Public safety is also included in that. So in terms of that happening to a private home, it's really not something that occurs.
Thank you, Doug.
I'm not really worried.
Chief Grillo.
I just wanted to wait till we were done talking about the eminent domain stuff, but on behalf of the fire department and membership, I wanted to say thank you. You guys took it on the chin the entire time.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. This has been my interview. You guys told me very straightforward and in those certain circumstances that you guys were completely committed to fixing this problem. That you guys wanted public safety to be improved. And because you guys didn't give up and you were frustrated and going for long hours and the emails back and forth, you guys were able to achieve something that you set out to do, and that was to be able to restore confidence in the fire department, trust in the service, and be able to make sure that we have the ability to operate. I really appreciate that. I think a lot of people in town do, and for the members, it was a huge success for you guys, an overwhelming achievement that I think, yeah.
Thank you. It was a team effort, though. There's a lot of hands in that.
would it surprise you if I told you that I have at least 17 resignations letters written? They're in the draft folder.
But not one of them got handed in.
Not yet.
How many did you have?
That actually was, Lisa, like I hear what you
They
guys are
want to
saying,
spend too much about what we put 3 times.
but thinking out further, the thing I was most worried about. What good person is gonna wanna do their job when they don't wanna do it anymore?
Mhm.
I know we could get an SFDI fan to try and get on the select board, and I know exactly what they do if they did that. But in terms of getting good people in the next round, who would wanna sign up for that with? And know they were gonna go through this crap with SFDI? I don't think anybody.
Well, I can name them, Richie Campetti, Victor Herkovich, Willard Platt, Mike Salem, they were all selectmen that wanted to get rid of or rein in the authority
I know.
that they had. And Barbara was one that came and yelled at the selectmen and said that we wouldn't have anything without Ralph, So she was a big supporter. Zoe Nelson was a big supporter. So I'm just
way
saying.
back, way back.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but it could have been taken care of, but
I don't know.
there was times when the selectmen backed down. They didn't.
Yes.
I'm saying they should take the gold though,
Absolutely.
and go for a new fire station. That's all. I'm just saying. That was it.
Back to town meeting.
So just a point of clarification, the firehouse that Chief Grill is talking about in Lennox, that's a public safety complex. So that's housing fire, ambulance, and police.
That's what Tolland does.
So we would love to do that. Maybe that's a goal down the future. But for now, we secured a spot.
That was in the original master plan.
Yeah.
That was one of the big items in the original master plan, was a complex.
And I'll catch some heat for this, but I've said it before, is that there's a comment the other night at the meeting that somebody felt like we were attacking previous members. That is not the case. Zoe Sandy Snyder, Andy Snyder, I mean, the Barbara, the list of people and community members that have volunteered, fire, ambulance, EMT, EMS is goes on and on and on. We got to where we are because of everybody helping and getting and taking care of our own community. It was getting to a spot where we were fighting somebody that we shouldn't have to be fighting to get our job done. I said this publicly before too, is that I don't think that SFDI started with ill intentions. Something happened along the way, but I think that they started with the right intentions in mind. Clearly, something happened along the way.
And again, that's when a lot of people donated their time and their things, which if you were going to build one, you know, maybe somebody would think that you wouldn't be able to clear a lot for 2 years or something, but if you had the right people that would volunteer, you could take that lumber down, you know, and
I know a guy.
no, a better fact, his name's Chad, but no.
Facts. Yeah, facts on that one.
Much quicker, I'm sorry.
The point is, I just want to make it clear that none of us want to put ill on efforts that were made in the past by previous select boards, previous fire department members, previous EMTs. They did what they had to do and took care of the community as best they could. And we're just trying to ensure that moving forward from this spot on, we can continue to do that without outside influence. And that's pretty much all I can say.
Thank you, Bob. Mary?
Based on what Lisa said earlier, what did Tottenham's place, for they don't have a lot of money, what did their center cost?
They have a massive lakefront community that brings in more revenue than our town does.
That's what the.
Every community around us has lakefront communities. You know, that's why Monterey has what they have, Otis has what they have. Their annual revenue source is probably greater based on what they put out.
But do we know what they paid for that building?
No. Idea. Melissa?
I just wanted to go back to what Bob said and say, you're spot on. What people forget, it was not about politics. It was about people and public safety. You know, it wasn't about personalities and politics. It was about our community and our public safety and feeling safe. You know, and again, back to Carl's point, you know, the fact that this nonprofit had so much power that would have, like you said, they could have thwarted any agenda they wanted to.
Sure.
So anyway.
Thank you, Melissa. Last one, Carl.
I just want to say one other thing, you know, we got a lot of negative press out of this, I think unjustly, and I just want to comment on that for a minute. When you look back over what we've accomplished over the last several years, starting with getting broadband internet in, fixing the stuff with the school, going to the split tax rate, yada, yada, yada. The last nut we had to crack was public safety. I mean, 5 years ago, I made a list. All those items on that list have been addressed. This was the last one. So for people that look from the outside at Sandisfield and say, oh, Jesus, this is a clown show. No, we've faced our problems and we've resolved them. You haven't even uncovered yours and faced them yet. And anybody that thinks that other towns don't have exactly the same issue going on that we just sorted through,
Sure.
they're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we got to weather that storm from the outside, but I think I would put our track record on par with any other town in Southern Berkshire.
Thank you, Carl.
Last question.
Last one.
The meeting happened on Thursday. We've been repeatedly told there's a lot of old people in town, not one of them. And I had a lot of people say to me, why are these meetings at 6 o'clock at night? And so many people, you know, our other meetings at 10 on Saturday, why is this meeting at 6? And many of these old people, and I can say old because I am, say, you know, do they not want us here? Because many elderly do not want to drive at night.
More people showed up at night than they do.
I totally agree, but I had a lot of people ask me.
That's the thing, like, we literally can't pick a time, a day that's gonna suit everybody. There's always.
Old people.
But there's also younger families that need, you know, family care. Like I had a 2-hour window. Like as soon as that thing was over, we were beating feet out of there to get back to the house because our sitter was done. Yeah.
And if I can make a comment, Barbara posted on Connect and the word was out. If you're not comfortable driving, someone will pick you up and take you. So I hear what you're saying, and I know Barbara put that out there, and I know a lot of these quote unquote, and listen, I'm 68, I'm no spring chicken either. But some of these elderly folks that don't want to drive at night, trust me, they are, I feel very confident that in our community, it would have taken a phone call, a text, an email, hey, can you pick me up and take me?
Well, I think we can look at that moving forward. There's always ways to improve.
Yeah, I mean,
And
did you drive Mary?
No, I drove some.
Okay, but I'm just saying, so anybody would have been happy to do
Can
that.
I just say one thing? I'm sick of hearing about the fire department.
Okay, let's move
I
on.
don't think Michael Grillo is an evil person.
Well,
Kind of okay. Kind of okay.
Yeah.
But I think we're also missing two other things that Carl said about our town moving forward. We have moved forward not with just the fire department. We have now a better police department, and we have now one of the best highway departments, I think, running that we've had in years since Butch was out.
well, look at this rascal sitting in the
Well, I-
room.
And
Thank you, Bob,
I'm,
on behalf of the whole island.
No, it,
I mean that sincerely.
I've been singing your praises since I saw you that
And
night.
I told him you
But
want
I'm
the truck the
sincere
other
about
day,
that.
after a smoke. Yeah, see, I got caught. I got caught washing the truck.
Oh, doing a good thing, that's.
Leadership creates results, right? Lead by
Yeah.
example.
And really to kind of close this topic out, I hope, we tried to negotiate with SFDI so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, we paid who knows how many thousands of dollars to communicate via attorneys because that was their request. Like we tried. You know how many emails we sent out or letters we sent out that went on, they just went unanswered. And so the clock was burning. July was the day. And we had to do what we had to do, and the people came together and did the thing, and now we get to move on. Is that the be all end all?
Let's pile the paper and get going.
Hey, don't threaten me.
Well, that's actually
You'll
something
put
I
one of
wanted
those
to ask.
resignations.
One, a second appraisal, yes or no?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then two, I guess, well, then I'll just wait for the appraisal to come back before we do the order of take.
Absolutely.
I agree with that strongly.
No, we have to do our diligence to make sure we're doing the right.
You don't want to submit it with the old appraisal, have the new one and come in less and then have to make a change after you submit the papers. That doesn't look good.
I went into a meeting the week of the STM with Dan Andrus wanting to go to that town meeting with a deal. And it didn't happen, like not even close, not even close.
You went above.
Even to the point where if I could convince Mike to resign, would they cut us a deal?
We would have cut.
No
it right
dice.
out.
Even with Mike out of the picture. No.
No.
And by the
Did
way.
you throw me into it?
Yeah,
I offered my resignation
that's true.
to try to come up with some type of a deal. The concern was my leadership. If that meant for continuity for the town and for the service, I offered my resignation in writing. For them to be able to hand it to SFEI in return to gift or come up with some type of a lease to be able to like put this thing to bed. And they still didn't.
We checked all the boxes, crossed the T's, dotted the I's. I haven't got any more time to meet with them,
No, we're done.
fresh out.
This was all about
Everybody.
power and control.
Yeah.
Didn't have anything to do with the fire chief.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next item. Thank you, everybody. Review volunteer fire EMS incentive program. So this initiative was brought to the select board a few weeks ago, put it on ice, waiting for the STM to go through. Chief, would you want to just explain the idea behind this briefly?
Sure. One of the things that happened because of the special town meeting, the continuation of the per diem program, is we ended up using all the compensation line item, and now the compensation line item is for the minimum coverage required. Additionally, because of what we just went through, we recognize that the pay per call or the on-call system, getting paid $25 an hour while you're operating on a call was either ineffective. There's too many loopholes with it that leads to possible mismanagement, and it's a really watery situation. So to be, again, more conservative, one of the things that, we had talked about is reducing the requirement to work for the town. To provide coverage and shifting it from a paid on call incentive to, it being an incentive to cover the firehouse there, right? From being here, we collected a lot of data that found that even if we had 1,000 people responding, every person in town responded. There's, because of Sandifield's geography, we run into a lot of issues with time, and time is really what you're up against when somebody calls 911, want them to be there quick. So, you know, if you live on Town Hill, by the time you drive to Station 2, that's a 7-minute ride, and you get in the ambulance and then go wherever it is you're going. That's 14 to 20 minutes, even if you're on point and 20 people. So, the goal here would be to lower the requirement, and allow first responders that are able to drive the ambulance and drive a piece of fire apparatus to also be able to take some of those shifts for coverage, which will help us. One, we're employing people that live in town. Two, it allows for us to be able to acquire more people to be able to cover these shifts. It helps with the response times. And it's a good way, again, to operate as a true incentive program, where people want to be at the firehouse because they want to get qualified. And, you know, we have members that have families, right? And that extra $100 for a, you know, a Friday night covering the firehouse, you know, with their kids there is, I mean, that goes a long way. And I think that for what we're trying to do as far as an incentive program, to stay in line with the per diem concept, it wouldn't require any more money. It would just require a policy change. I'm not saying this is the end all be all. I think that one of the important things that we have the ability to do that's been very successful is, as the circumstances and as our situation changes, to be able to adapt to that and be able to change the policy or the plan as we go. So I'm not saying this is set in stone, the only way that we can do some level of volunteer compensation, the idea of like tax abatement's been thrown around, that kind of stuff. I think that for what we just went through, the budget that we have, and by reducing the requirements from what we originally had, it'll allow for us to achieve the same goal without spending any more money, and then revisit it in a few years when we have more trained individuals, more people are coming around, the recruitment is more steady, and the fire department has a better foundation. And then we can go and find something else that works. Or if this does work, continue and modify this. Again, I don't want anybody to think that like this is the way it has to be. It's just, we can try something. If it works out, great. Then we found what worked. I know you guys had talked about in previous meetings about even raising the amount of money that you pay per call, right? And that didn't incentivize people to show up more. So just one of those things of just trying things, find out what works best for us, not with everybody else, but more so for with us. And do that. So the policy would be for first responders, that are qualified to drive the ambulance and the engine, it'd be $25 an hour to cover the firehouse, up to $25 an hour, right? All the rates are still negotiable. But up to $25 an hour. And then for the firefighter EMT, so somebody who holds an EMT certification, it'd be up to $30 an hour. And again, the idea is to be able to negotiate experience. If we have somebody that's willing to cover, that has 30 years experience, that's well qualified, right? It would be at the upper aspect of that pay threshold, and vice versa. If somebody just got their EMT an hour ago, right, they're not going to get paid that they've been on the job for 30 years. So that's what that proposal is. It's meant to make it a little bit more inclusive, and make sure that the entire membership has a very good, fair opportunity, and to be able to help with the recruitment process. That was it.
Thank you, Mike.
But to clarify, so we're no longer gonna pay whoever shows up on a call an hourly stipend. We're only gonna pay for somebody signing up to cover a shift, correct?
Correct. That's what this policy would do.
Just want that to be clear. Now, one comment on that is when we were paying people by the hour and stuff, there was this notion of, as our new volunteers ramped up and got trained, we'd eventually be able to scale back on the per diem as those volunteers became more capable, and we pay them the hourly stipend. In this arrangement, and Mike's made a good point that it's not fixed forever. This is over, let's say, till we get to the time meeting. But in this structure, the amount we pay doesn't change based on how capable and how many volunteers you have. All that means is there's more people available to raise their hand and say, I'll take that shift, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me, like the coverage is available at that point. And I
Right.
think, to run the policy like this, I agree with it. The situation that we're in, it was difficult.
Right.
Chief came up with a great solution. I think before the ATM, we should sit down again and look at how the progress is going. We should do it, once or twice a year just to keep tabs on what's the progress and what are the capabilities.
Sure, and then one of the things too that was voted in to speak to your point about ramping up or ramping down the per diem program. The whole concept of per diem versus part-time, I think sometimes the terminology gets tossed around loosely. But it allows for me at every month, when I publish the shifts that need to be covered, I can move the shifts around based on where the coverage gaps exist. I can drop shifts based on where we have high volumes of coverage, like for example, the bunk room program.
Okay.
If I have 10 people living in the firehouse, right, and I know that they're there pretty consistently, they stay there every single night.
Yep.
And I know that of those people, I have a handful of EMTs and guys that are qualified or personnel that are qualified. I don't need to have a
Okay, so
midnight to 8 a.m.
So
shift.
you won't necessarily be paying for each shift then.
Correct. So as the volunteer turnout goes up, as we incentivize these programs and build them out, it allows for opportunities for those shifts to be dropped. Every single month, I can change the shift coverage and reduce the shifts that are required.
Yeah.
For example, if we have a lot of people hanging around during the day, right? We have no shifts during the day. Same thing in the evening. It really depends on how our approval process goes and everybody's available. So the whole point of this is we just want to be fluid.
Yeah, I'm not objecting to this. I just wanted everybody to understand it. Now just close with, I support this notion, but I want to be sure that the money we've just voted to allocate for salaries in these shifts, that money can only be used for that purpose. We'll see how much is left there. I don't think it should be repurposed elsewhere if we're not spending the money for shifts. I think that money's got to be restricted to pay for shifts.
Thank you, Carol. Lisa?
I don't know your schedules and
Sure.
how many people you actually have, but with the people that are there, because, I've seen some of you quite often. Does anybody work so much that they need to be, have? No, insurance or benefit thing?
No, so there's a handful of exemptions related to the employment laws. One, because it's per diem, not part-time, there is no obligation for them to pick up shifts. I think they have to work 24 hours a month is the minimum obligation. There's also no consistent or set schedule, so the shifts are available. And if the individuals, they pick up the shifts, we don't assign them to them, right? So if we'll say Brian always wants to cover Monday based on his availability, it's his choice to cover the Monday. As an employee, or I'm sorry, as an employer, we are not asking them or telling them they have to work this day, this day, this day, this day. We're not setting their schedule. So that's one aspect of the per diem clause. It doesn't allow for a reoccurring consistent schedule. And again, if there is one, it's by their choice, not ours. Two, when they fill out their employment paperwork, they also understand that it is a per diem, non-benefited positions. We're still required if overtime exists. So we'll say somebody does, 30 hours, and there's a large incident that requires them to go over 40 because they're there. Right, we're still required for the overtime requirements. But they acknowledge and agree that they are declining benefits, they are declining insurance by taking this position that it's just not offered with it. The third thing is that, especially with a new program, with the recruitment, the training, even just getting enough staffing to cover all of the shifts, that is also one of the listed exemptions. So even if we weren't exempt, because obviously we just started a program, we only have 5 guys that can cover shifts, right? Those individuals are going to be working a lot more hours. Then it takes us time to get the 20 or 30 people that can cover it, where you can reduce it down to these numbers. But the short answer is no, they're not entitled to benefits. There is no benefits that are offered with it. They're not entitled to insurance. There is no pension. There is no retirement with it. And that's the way it's listed out. And that's one of the biggest differences between per diem versus part-time. Is with part-time, once you start going those hour thresholds, you're by law required. With the per diem, there is nothing requiring these individuals to work these days. It's their choice.
And I have one more question for you. when will you be doing a CPR class or a first aid? Because as you said, it does take a long time for you to get to places. So I think the more of us that you have
I think that's
that
fantastic.
are CPR, trained.
Yeah, so, one of the things, that was a condition of offering the stipend for the deputy chief, Chris Culinary, he's an EMSI, he's an instructor, he teaches paramedic classes and EMT classes. He's also an AHA instructor, Brian's an AHA instructor, Sienna's an AHA instructor, so, the goal is, and what we have as part of our plan is twice a year, probably once in the spring and once in the fall. We're gonna offer free CPR classes for the town. One of the objectives for us long-term is to achieve this thing called the Heart Safe Community, which is where we have AEDs in so many locations, so many people in town are trained, so we intend to do that. One of the things that we need to do is have a space to do it, and now that we're in a better position to do it, we can start scheduling those and getting them squared away. There's just a lot going on, but, it's something we talked about in my interview process and, it's part of the plan.
I have a question for Chief, if I could.
Yeah. Go ahead, Barbara.
About the training and the classes. Do you see any goal of where you can actually financially benefit from giving classes to other towns, like open it up to the towns and say, I'm going to teach first responders here like we did years ago? And you can train them and actually benefit.
Yeah,
other
so,
towns? Get paid?
I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting down in Shelton, Connecticut, at the Williams Company. For them to host an EMT class at Sandisfield this round, we should have like 10 people that are gonna go through it. Which is a huge plus.
Yeah.
As we start doing that, we can't. Again, the number one goal is to be able to have a facility to do it.
So now we can.
And now we can. Chris can teach EMT classes, the Collins Center, which is the ones that do the study for like Southern Berkshire and that kind of stuff. They reached out Access Ambulance, the Collins Center, Region 4 Director, and Chris all linked up and got together, and they're asking Sandisfield to put on these classes regularly. So
Chris is
everything-
doing a mutual class with New Marlboro next month, bloodborne pathogens. So.
Yeah,
it's-
Chris is teaching.
Yeah,
How can
So,
we bring some money in from it, is what I'm saying.
Well-
Can they charge, like, we used to charge so much for per.
Sandisfield,
You know,
2 or 3 years ago, held a first responder class. Bob Straczynski, who recently passed, taught it. I believe he was one of the instructors, but yeah, they charge to cover the instructor's expenses.
Yeah.
I imagine we could possibly get to that.
yeah, I think at most it'd be a reimbursement to the town. The only thing I'll say, Robert, is maybe in a few years, we can build a training center.
that'd be awesome. Yeah.
But I think that Sandusfield owes its neighbors a good service.
Mhm.
And I think that helping other agencies train their personnel at a more cost effective and equitable solution, or driving 10 minutes down the road versus going to Springfield. I think that that's us kind of giving back, and it only helps us and everybody else if we can be able to get everybody on the same page, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought, and I think, they were covering us through mutual aid for quite a while. It's a nice thank you, they were covering our butt pretty good, 2 different towns where
Creates a lot of goodwill.
it is.
A quick one for Jane. So the per diem people, these are 1099 employees, like at the end of the year, they get a 1099 instead of W-2.
I think they would still get a W-2.
Yeah, they still get a W-2. To be considered an independent contractor
Mhm.
versus an employee and still having employment rights, like unemployment, they're still being entitled to
So they
unemployment.
are employees then, they're not just contractors.
No, in order to be a 1099 contractor, you have to supply your own tools, transportation, that kind of stuff. to be able to do that.
Okay.
Insurance, that, yeah, if you are using our own equipment, our resources are here, right?
Amanda?
Just as a resident, the question, is there a limit as to how long like one person can volunteer or it can be a per diem before they have to like stop for a set amount of time? Like, is there a limit? Like they can only be per diems for 6 months before they become a part-time employee, or is there any rules on that?
No, not that I've seen. I've had a conversation with my own personal employment attorney. And the per diem program, and a lot of agencies do the per diem concept, like part-time policing and that kind of stuff. there is no cap on how long. It would be on the town to change the jobs. What makes them per diem is that we cannot mandate them to work shifts. We cannot have them have a set schedule. We can't do callbacks. And we can only set a minimum amount of hours per month, right? So if I don't have Monday covered, for example, I can ask if people are available, but I cannot just assign somebody and say, you are scheduled to work this day, and then try to enforce some type of progressive discipline policy on them for no call, no showing. That's the biggest difference with part-time and per diem. Once you go to part-time, you have these expectations of people. That's when certain benefits kick in.
Sorry, I just have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the volunteers, for that possible like $100 that they could make by picking up a shift, what length of time are those shifts? Like, do you have it, are they all like 6-hour shifts? Are they 8 hours, 4 hours? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, so they're all 8-hour blocks. So it's 8 to 4, 4 to midnight, and midnight to 8 a.m. So they can pick up any duration of it. And a lot of the per diem staff, I don't know if everybody knows this, a lot of the per diem staff also spend a lot of time at the firehouse and volunteering.
Did you, I seen both of you guys with your hands up. Did you guys have something to say?
Well, my thing to this per diem program is well versed in understanding as a town. If myself and other people come in as per diems, okay, some of these guys want to get on the job. This looks good on a resume, per diem for the town of Sandisfield. So this is also a stepping stone for them as well, to help them. So you're getting some coverage out of it. They're getting some benefit out of it, because when they go do their resume, where have you worked? Down at Sandisfield as a firefighter 1, firefighter 2, EMT. So those matter, and that's, you know, I mean, some of the progressive benefits you guys are getting out of this. So,
Yeah,
just so you
that makes sense,
understand.
yeah.
Thank you. Question?
No,
No,
my hand's literally
just scratching.
Like Kim worked midnight to 8 a.m. Right? So from 8 a.m. this morning till now, he's been volunteering. He's handled 2 ambulance calls today.
Thank you.
Right? So Brian last Thursday, right? He was up all last Friday, he was here from like midnight to the morning on Saturday, all volunteering, right? Like Vinny, Josh are both at the firehouse right now. They're on. But at midnight, they're volunteering till Wednesday. Right. So a lot of these guys truly like being up here. I know a lot of you guys have met them. They really like it. And Maynard moved to Tolland to be closer to Sandisfield. Right. Like people are moving here because they want to be part of this and they like the town, they like the people. I don't know why.
There's a nightlife up there.
They get to hang out with Barbara in the COA and play pool, right?
So Chief.
That's right.
The last item I just want to bring up is you spoke about the bunk program.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a policy in place that identifies how you're going to treat the people that want to apply for it. Like, what are the criteria? You need to be able to do certain calls. You need to have certain licensing credentials, whatever you think is appropriate. I don't want to tell you what that is, but I think you should have a bunk room policy to go along with this so that we all have an understanding of how you're going to fill the space.
Absolutely.
Great.
I have a question on the bunk room. It said in the town, we have a policy in town or a bylaw in town where you can't sleep in a camper on your property. Could we adopt something so that if we can't get a bunk room at the firehouse, where we could have like a camper set up for these guys to have somewhere to sleep, like.
Let's cross that bridge when we get there.
So the cool thing is the firehouse has this huge room.
No, I know,
That is
but still, but
all ready to go.
possibly down the road, like renovations, and also. I'm sure it's gonna be quicker, but if there are delays, just thinking of things that could be helpful sooner than later. You know, like we allow for you to live in a camper for a year while you're building a property. So currently, when you put something there in the next couple of weeks, after you had a camper or something. And then allow the guys to have somewhere to sleep. While we're working on officially acquiring the building, or just options for these guys who are out here. And sleeping in the back of a fire truck. Whatever they're doing while they're volunteering for 3 days.
And I know some people stop there, but I've been partaking in a little bit of it. But there's a nightlife there. You go there at night, and they're cooking together as a family. You know, poorly sometimes, but There was a recording of maybe a rock band playing there Friday night and Saturday morning, like there's.
Just came up with a great fundraising thing. And I don't know how we could do it without an SFDI now.
There'll never be an SFDI.
No, but I mean, without
That's
us coming up with some kind of a good fundraising group for them. Buy a bunk program. Or maybe a resident wants to say, how much is it gonna cost to build a bunk? And maybe we can sponsor a bunk for
You
you.
made a good point. I think we
Yeah.
do need to encourage people to form a new nonprofit that
Yes,
can
we
be
do.
trusted to do the right thing and help fundraise for the town. With certain guardrails on a program like that, it can be very beneficial to our fire department.
Absolutely.
So on that same point, could we do like the same thing they did with the Inner Park and the COA? They make us a group of friends of, so that it would be,
Well,
you could accept donations for friends of the fire department, or would that be a loophole?
No, I think the only
As
real,
opposed to doing another incorporation with another nonprofit organization and getting caught with our pants down again.
I'm just gonna speak for the COA, the Friends of the COA. We've had a couple of opportunities where we could have got grants from a bank and things, but because we are not a 501(c),
No.
they will not donate to you. Because they want to be able to write them out with their taxes.
Yeah.
No, having a charity.
501(c).
Yeah, I think there's a huge value in having the charity, but also having a charity that doesn't raise money, buy things and then keep them for leverage. Right, that's a problem.
So we need a charity.
Vehicles, buildings, all that stuff. If the charity's just raising money for certain things,
And everything they earn, they take out their expenses and they give the rest.
open books, the whole thing.
That's all.
Yeah.
I think it's worth having a conversation with Great Barrington, how they do. Jeff, as you know,
They do a great job.
went to their fire station, talked to one of their captains for like an hour and got some insight into their relationship with their nonprofit. And it's like, it's very specific. They, the nonprofit goes to the fire department and say, what do you need? We need A, B, C, X, Y, Z. They raise money. And so it's very specific. It's very targeted. And I think that's what,
It's very transparent.
Yeah, and it's very transparent and it's very targeted. It's none of this, you're not left guessing, like
Sure.
we've been left guessing for so long.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna motion to approve the volunteer incentive shift program with biannual review.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Department board and committee updates. Anybody want to?
Get out of the garden.
Write it out. Chief?
I have a question, since we're talking about the bunker room stuff. I have a PO, the estimated cost to be able to put the bunker room in, and this is with the beds, mattresses, this is 8 sets, is 4,400. That's for everything, that's dressers, all that kind of stuff. My question is, I have the PO filled out, we have the money available to be able to do it in our existing budget.
Sure.
Is there a way that we can sign this and get this approved before the order of taking itself? And the only reason why I asked, it won't be delivered by the time,
Sure.
it won't be installed. What I'm saying is if we acquire this soon, there's a lot of Black Friday deals. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. It has like a tremendous amount of savings to it. And I just don't want to, I don't want to take the opportunity to get it cheap.
That was all 36 hours, Steve.
No.
It won't show up in.
Let's get the bunk room policy in place. We're gonna
Sure.
approve it and then stocking can happen after that, once we legally own the building. You can be evicted still. I don't think that'll happen, but
The other thing too that I want to follow up with is we had last Tuesday, we met with OEMS. I know that we talked about it briefly, or it was brought up briefly at the special town meeting. It was successful. We got our license issued back to us for 2 years. One of the things that we found out that we did not know is that we were issued a provisional license, which means we had already lost our license. We were under the direct supervision of the state, which is why we kept getting so much heat. Again, I never do that. It was kind of told to us at the table. We all found out at the same time. I had a little bit of a panic attack, but we worked through it. There was a handful of things that we needed to get done on. Like, for example, we have to do actor training, which is like the active shooter training. That's just a rule that we didn't know. They didn't harp on us about it. OEMS, in no uncertain terms, was beyond grateful of the change that occurred. And they had enough confidence where, like I said, they reinstated our license. To put that in perspective, if that inspection failed and we did not do what we were supposed to do, the expiration for our license is November 30th. So if that inspection failed, there would have been zero shot of us having an ambulance. It would have been open. To put it one step further, there was an inspection in the previous year that led to the provisional license. So they came out on the 2-year inspection last year in November. There's a 22-page report of everything that was wrong. Very, very wrong, from lack of communications to lack of certifications, response times, lack of personnel, etc. All those issues have been addressed, corrected, and now I'm not gonna say we're free and clear. I'm sure that there's gonna be some stuff in the future, but like I said, they granted us the full license, so we are safe.
Thank you, Chief. I know personally, as one of the selectmen, we were never told anything about this. I think that's a big, like, hey, the house is on fire, you know? I'm glad that you and Chris were able to rein it all in.
Just so the point's not lost on anybody, that all occurred before the prior volunteers resigned, months before that.
Yeah.
So this had nothing to do with those people resigning, as was implied in the meeting. One thing on this topic before we leave, I'd like to bring up. I think there is some stuff we need to start to think about prior to the order taking. Because I foresee a major battle, you call it a peeing contest, whatever you want to call it, in terms of who owns what inside those two.
Yeah, we've already talked about that internally. We have a plan. We've got a plan in place, Mary.
A long time ago in the newspaper, they used to have a fire and police blotter. Are we gonna go back to that at all?
See why not?
Does do you submit anything to
I don't know
Bill?
what that is.
It's just like a monthly, like, you don't go into details, but you basically do a status of how many calls you want all that month.
About the Sandisfield Times.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, if you look at the New Marlboro, like, by Village News, they do that. They have the police and fire report.
Yeah, I go back with
Correct.
Bill Price, and if that's something you guys want to do.
Yeah, like, 11/21 motor vehicle accident.
Like favorite.
Yeah, basically.
I just want to go a little bit further on what Michael was just, or Chief Grillo was just giving a little down. This provisional license that we had, we weren't told about this. The select board, nobody in authority knew about this. The point of contact person at that point was Rico, so Rico knew, and we assume that people close to Rico knew. It was also, we also know that we received a complaint in June or July from somebody alerting OEMS that we didn't have enough people to staff. Pretty much identical to the threat that was made on the recording that was played. And we also know that the person that made the threat or made that report to OEMS was made in a retaliatory manner by previous management. Previous leadership, I think is how it was put.
In an effort to help us lose our ambulance.
So he knew that we were working on a cautionary license and thought that that was going to be the killing dagger. He was twisting it.
And so everybody knows, Carl attended the meeting, and Janie also attended the meeting with myself, Chris Hollander, and Vincent, which is helping Chris with the EMS stuff. None of the, this is the watered down version of how bad it really was. Like, this is under no uncertain terms, like, this is no exaggeration. Like, we were not in a good spot, and we didn't know it.
And we can say with complete confidence that the OEMS guy who was there, he was immensely grateful for what Chris and Michael had done he's rooting for us.
Good.
He absolutely is rooting for us.
That's amazing. Thanks again.
That's not what I heard in my negotiation, though. I heard that the department was running really well prior to you.
Yeah, I
How
mean,
it was functioning.
No, I'm serious.
Well,
That's what I was told. It was just fine.
Well, do you remember the last meeting that we had here with the previous members all in attendance, and they said that they were overwhelmed, that they didn't have any help for calls. And then they also said they're upset about the per diem program. Like, we're mad that you're bringing on help, but we don't have enough help. Like, you can't have it both ways. I'm sorry.
Those people also voted against the turnout here.
You vote against turnout here.
Does everybody remember the PO that we rejected?
Yeah.
For the $10,000 worth of turnout gear for the new chief that we hadn't hired yet?
And it was only for him, not for none of the men.
Well, it happened to have his custom name on the bottom of the tail, Andrus, it said. I
Chief
think.
Andrus.
Chief Andrus.
Well, that was nice of him, wasn't it?
So,
Never.
Unbelievable. It's more sickening every day.
It
Every
just,
day.
we can't forget little details like that. It's okay for there to be how many expired sets of turnout gear?
I think we have just shy of 21 and we asked for 14.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we got a PO for one set, somebody who doesn't go in the building.
Didn't Henry like bring this up?
Is that true? You don't go in the building.
You
run the scene.
Yeah, it depends who's there. Yeah, I mean.
Most chiefs don't go in the building.
No, luckily.
Henry didn't bring that,
Forget, listen,
but I know.
we've already discussed this and I'll probably be taking command. And just bring the building.
To answer your question about Henry did attempt to build a gear spec with the previous administration. I don't know if you guys know this, I also spent a lot of time with Henry on the phone after I got here to find out what happened, what went wrong, try to understand things. He spent a lot of time trying to get them to do things that they just would not cooperate. So when he would make a decision unilaterally, I think that was the final straw with him, is that he said, this is what we're gonna do. And then Mike is the one that accosted him, where he said, I'm not doing this.
I add to that one thing.
Yeah.
I think Henry was also asking a lot of questions about payroll, just about the time he got.
Yeah, we're getting in the weeds here.
Yeah,
Sorry. So any other board and committee updates?
We talked about access. Can I talk with the planning board to try to tighten up the definition of access?
I think our access road definition is pretty good, but.
I mean, you were talking about, someone was saying, it gets removed, and then they said, no, it doesn't get removed, does it?
Yeah, until there's a house and it's a driveway, till there's a building to have a driveway to.
Yeah, so it's
It's not a bad bylaw, I don't think.
It isn't. I just think that, in all cases, if we talk as a team ahead of time.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, you need to go to conservation or you need to go to planning. We had a situation that came up. Derek's new in town. And I think we resolved it. Now we have an action item to help improve it moving forward.
Well, it'd be good if we met together, maybe the boards met together before we prosecuted somebody and see the old, I'm going back to the old school. The old school was when somebody came in, the first thing we said, and I was always the chair then, what can we do to help you? The new school is, let's see what we can do to blank you. And that's what we're seeing in this town now. So we gotta get back, blankety blank. So we need to get back to how can we help these residents in town when they have an issue?
Like a building team meeting, building inspector, planning, conservation,
Would be a good thing.
Board of Health,
Would be good.
Yeah, I think we can make that happen.
I just want to say, I came in late on that whole thing, but there's a difference between a barway that used to be what an access was to a drive. I mean, like, he's got a pretty nice driveway up there.
It's an access road.
I'm-
If you read our bylaws, that's exactly
I
what
know,
it
but
is.
I'm just saying that everybody would just drive through a gully. They wouldn't put a culvert in.
Yep.
That was access, I mean.
But that doesn't follow our bylaws. So the problem is it's not about what people think we should be doing. The bylaws say what we should be doing.
Yep.
And it's very, very clear in here. I think that team meeting is going to help us resolve the questions. Because a lot of things were allowed in the past. Doesn't mean they were true to our bylaws. But the bylaw does say you cannot impede the water flow. So you have to put in a culvert to do an access road properly. If you just threw a bunch of dirt in the ditch, now you've impeded it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't fill it in.
Yeah.
They just drove through it.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying is that was an access because you didn't use it all the time. You weren't in there a day and you'd go in, you'd hay your fields and then you drive out, like that was what access roads used to be back in the day.
In all fairness, if that access road is truly used as an access road in a matter of just a few years, grass will be growing out of that gravel and it will look like exactly what you're saying. It just looks. And I want to put this out there. He was not trying to avoid or get around any Wetlands Protection Act stuff. He looked at the bylaws, he knew the bylaws, and He doesn't need a driveway, he doesn't need a 20-foot blacktop apron to put some rocks in there.
I'm just saying, it looks better than a lot of
Oh,
driveways.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But you can't fault the guy for doing a nice job.
Derek was, but the highway superintendent, Derek was in here for a previous meeting, tonight. And he said he talked to him and he asked him, please do a nice job. Don't throw it together all nasty and have people complaining. So the guy put extra effort into it to get the complaints.
Well, we have action items to move forward, so we can improve. All right, so town manager updates. Jamie's saying.
My turn. Last week was just primarily preparing for the STM. I met with KP Law again, to go over the logistics of the meeting. Dominic, Douglas, Amanda, and Steve were all there at that meeting. I think it helped us create some ground rules, going into it, so that was good. As Chief Grillo just said, I was also at that OEMS inspection. I'm not gonna get back into it, just the fact that the inspector made it very clear that without the adjustments that were made with our new administration, we would not have been issued that license. So that was good. Lori wrote up and reviewed with myself that 2020 or the FY26 community transit grant to purchase a COA shuttle. The grant was submitted last Friday and we expect the awards to be announced in the spring. So just as a note, Barbara had raised a concern that we wouldn't be able to use that vehicle out of state. We did confirm that's not the case. We would be able to use it out of state. So you know, there would be no limitation, so doctor's appointments in Winstead or Torrington would be within the scope of that.
Good news.
Yes, that is good news. We're still in the process of dealing with the open public records requests, so KP Law did draft a letter to respond to one of our shorter requests, which did include our costs. I believe Amanda's still waiting on a response and or payment before moving forward with actually compiling those records. KP Law is also currently in the process of drafting a letter for that 8-page request and plans to move forward with petitioning the Public Records Division to request an extension for the deadline to provide those records once payment is received, because the state currently only allows for 15 days to compile those records after we've received. It's gonna take a lot more than 15 days for us to get all of those records together. FY27 budgets are due at the end of the week. Shout out to the DPW, Board of Assessors, Conservation Commission, and Library for already submitting their budgets.
Nice.
And I just wanted to see if everybody is okay for another 5 PM work session next Monday with the police department. Yes, no, maybe so.
Me?
Yeah.
Did you know that next Monday is a national holiday?
What's the first day?
It's the birthday of shotgun. I will not be here. Come on, Jamie. Definitely. Hard no.
You can be there at 5.
Nope.
You can't shoot him after.
I already went to a
That's
select
true.
board meeting from a deer stand once this year. It's not happening again.
Zoom calling a deer.
Yeah.
I did it.
You do it. All right, well, you pick a day, so we'll make it happen.
Tuesday. Not Monday. I'm just taking Monday off. What? Your dad's at heart. Don't look at me like that.
All right.
We're on the same page.
All right, that was all.
Great, thank you, Jane. Select board updates, hunting on Monday.
I'm gonna go hunt on Monday. We already talked about it, but I met with Dan and just tried to talk about still potentially getting it as a gift. I asked him half a dozen times at least if they get the money, what they plan on doing with it, and I got no answers. It was a waste of 15 minutes. It took me 45 minutes to get there. So yeah, I mean, we both recorded it, so I'm gonna share my recording with Janie so she can have a good laugh. And then that's it. So I'm not gonna meet with him again.
Okay.
Judy, I'm sorry, can I, just after the select board does their updates, can you circle back and, the special town meeting results, give the actual numbers, like how many voted for each article, what the numbers were?
I don't
You
have
mind?
those
I'll
numbers.
put it in the
but-
minutes. I don't.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was sorry to interrupt. I was-
No, you're right.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Yeah, like Amanda just said. she
You know,
put it
like
in there.
X amount for, X against, you know, for each article.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's a clerk, so
Okay.
clerk will do it. Yeah, Amanda will do it. No, it's all right. Bob,
Are we gonna look into those clicker systems?
yeah.
Great.
Well, the problem is how many do we buy? So
200.
I think we sharing with another town, I've said it before, it makes a lot of sense. None of us have our meetings on the same day. We could pay some amount of money to share. Maybe the clerk's office can reach out to a neighboring town that he happens to work for too. You know, but I think that's a better option. It's expensive, and if we do a meeting and we don't have enough of them, then we're in trouble again.
Otis has over 200.
Yeah.
They just used them at a meeting.
Yeah.
Could I ask John a question on his report?
Yeah, absolutely.
John, has anybody talked about getting, and I guess the select board in general, my son Marty talked to Antoinette Grumbeck, who is a lawyer who only deals with 501(c)(3)s. And she made it very clear of what they can't do with the money. So maybe we need to find out if KB has a lawyer that specializes in 501(c)(3)s. They cannot be political, they cannot keep the money. There are so many things that they're already doing that are wrong. So can we?
Is it the
get
town's
an-
responsibility to police them, or is it the town's responsibility to run the town?
It's a town's responsibility to know that our money's not going to.
Yeah,
illegal-
but
Illegal,
The town filed a formal complaint with the Attorney General.
yeah.
In the Attorney General's job is to look into these types of complaints, so they're very aware of the situation. I honestly, I won't get into it, but yeah, the complaints have been made, and anybody in town can file a
Attorney
complaint.
General complaint.
Well, there's a form that you can fill out online, and you can state your case, and I think if you feel strongly about it, you do what you feel if you have to.
Okay.
Just when you finish department updates, so you move kind of past there, so school committee will be voting in the December meeting. On that language I send you for the preferred schools, so keep your fingers crossed, but we should be done with that after the December meeting.
Great. Thank you, Carl. Select board updates you.
I had something and I forgot. It's because Ralph's here. And everybody loves blue here, but I don't know if anybody can smell it. It's either blue or Steve. I'm not sure.
The funny looks are because of what you guys.
I'm telling you. Yeah, walk by.
Oh, my goodness.
John tunes them up for the meeting.
Yeah, I did. Look at that marrow I gave him.
That's a high protein diet right there.
Future agenda items, so we talked about a bunk program, there's gonna be others that come up this week, police chief work session. Topics anticipated, I wasn't given anything.
Hey, I guess.
What's that?
So,
Well, the topics you have to ask ahead of time.
well.
A future
but
agenda
it's
item?
Gonna be, but you threw it off, so now it is now. So I really want you to seriously think about this property down here for 10 acres.
Sure.
Because we can put a community center up there that's not gonna be $2 million, and we can use it as a training center.
Sure.
So just ask Johnny Fields to spot us $6,500.
$500.
$65,000, so we can get 10 acres.
I think the biggest problem in Sandisfield with developing land is the contours of the land. I've looked at that property and the topos on it, and it's not an easy property to develop. It can be looked at. I think forming a fire station or public safety complex committee feasibility study, something like that. We have a lot of town-owned property. Just what I was talking about before on the other side of Silverbrook, where it connects to the cemetery. There's a whole lot of frontage right there, which pops out on Silverbrook Road, which is somewhat central to the town, especially if Silverbrook was repaired. There's a lot of different options. It's just a matter of digging through them. If you got to blast through a ton of ledge just to stick a building in there, you're going backwards.
Yeah, no, that property she's talking about is relatively flat.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never walked it, but I saw the whole back side of it is pretty high.
Before, yeah, it goes right to the bottom of the mountain.
It goes right out.
Goes right
Well,
up
yeah, but
to where
it-
Connie
it-
and Andre's
Yeah,
property, so
before,
it
you
doesn't.
gotta get all the way up to 12 before it starts to rise. Even going back behind the big White House, Hoffman's house.
Yeah.
It's the ridge or the bottom of the mountain goes away from 57.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So It's a pretty big chunk from. Duffy's, I don't know the number,
Yeah, I know the lot you're talking
57.
about. I've seen it.
behind his place before you get to steep rocky area, you know.
Sure.
Somebody just logged it about 4 or 5 years ago.
It's what you do right before you sell a piece of property.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, right. So I mean, they didn't have any trouble. I didn't see them having any trouble, but
There's 10 acres for 65,000.
yeah.
Pulls a fire pole in that new firehouse.
All right, so review, vote to approve minutes and meetings. We don't have any. Warrants, purchase orders, nothing. I think we crossed the line.
I guess, yes.
You hiding them?
I wasn't able to get it. That's the medical one. You're still, Chris asked me.
No, it's right here.
I know, I meant.
Well, you already got it, so.
Oh, you signed it?
Yeah, we signed it. We signed it last week.
Did you really?
I think so. Got all your stuff in it.
No shit, it's the exact same.
Yeah, give it over. What are you doing?
Why is this not in my folder? So you can throw that out. Doesn't matter. This is
All that is my collection. My house.
That's the bunk room, so you said you want to hold on.
I think we'll hold it for a week.
Remember Black Friday? I'm serious, look at the deals.
I know.
I get
Tail
it.
wags.
The other thing too is, I was gonna submit this as PO, and I will. But this is the first in bag, you got the invoice, and you get priced on it pretty good, the total is like 90. This was ordered before I got here.
Is it now? Is it now?
Medical bag.
Medical bag. They were ordered before I got here. Delivered after the fact, so the invoice. In this fiscal year, so we can still pay. We just now really just blind the bread. Knowing that. You guys wanna look at it first before you do it? You know what it gets, that red bag, that blue bag, and that yellow bag?
So is that the idea that some volunteer keeps it in the back of their car?
It was, I think they bought it from you, Ian.
M&M? Oh, Rico. So why don't we bring him to him and say it was this money?
Listen, I'm totally down, I couldn't find a PO for it at all.
Yeah.
Why would it be a great reason to?
Yeah. Already? Should we give him his receipt?
Say less?
Where do you already?
Medical bag.
Do we have any on town business?
No, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
I just didn't wanna blindly sign that.
You don't need it.